Elderwoman Kristen Wilhelm. Member Knupel. Member Knupel. Alderman Barber. Member Jonathan Haken. Member Dina Swenson. Yes, I would like to know that there's a correction. That's why I printed the corrected minutes, basically for the item VB, the item VB. So you will see the underline, the addition, basically just to make sure that air blast can exceed 123 decibels. No more than 15% of the times.
Move to approve the amended minutes.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, no opposed. The minutes are approved. Okay, next item is the minutes are approved. Okay, next item is citizen comment period. Any citizens that would like to speak?
Yours to speak.
No, she's good. Okay. No, she's good. Okay. All right. No, we have no citizens, so we'll close citizen comment period. No hearings. Next item is business item 5A, quarterly presentation by Stantec Consulting, third quarter calendar year. Third quarter calendar year. This one's good. Is my mic on? I don't think it was on the whole time then, so hopefully I was speaking loud.
Hello? I think it's on now. Just want to go over the third quarter report. Same format as we've been using for the past year and a half or so now. Go over visual monitoring. Visual monitoring. We did 5 observation events during the third quarter, which was the months of July, August, and September of this year. 3 of them were unannounced inspections of this year. 3 of them were unannounced inspections where we just drove the perimeter of the property. 2 were announced where we went inside of the quarry. As is typical, we saw a little bit of dust on Rawson Avenue, especially for trucks that are exiting to the east, but the street sweeper on 4 of the 5 events, so they are meeting that obligation. For the seismic monitoring, there were a total of 27 blast events in those 3 months. The Stantec monitors detected 63% of those blasts. There was a really interesting mix of what was and wasn't detected. There was a really interesting mix of what was and wasn't detected. There were some relatively low-level detections at some of the Payne and Dolan meters that weren't picked up by ours, and there were also some that the Payne and Dolan meters didn't pick it up where the Stantec meters paired with weren't located in the area where it could be picked up. For the blast events, all of them had the vibration underneath the limit in the PDD. But for the air overpressure, which are the decibel readings, there were 2 decibel mark. Both of them were at 125 decibels. But that still leaves the quarry at a 97% of their blasts have been under their limit for the year to date.
And the, it's 87%, or what was it on the, and the, it's 87%, or what was it on the?
85.
85, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're well within the limit. Neither of the blasts that went over that decibel limit had complaints this time either, so.
Oh.
Let's see, one thing of note, we did have the seismic went through their annual calibration in October of this year. Earlier this month, getting through to the complaints, there were only 4 blast events that had complaints during this quarter, a total of, yes.
On the ones that were
Your
over,
mic.
there were 2 that were over.
Correct.
What is the state limit on that? I know it's you got .3.
I don't recall off the top of my head.
It just says something different here that as I read it, it just says shall not exceed the air blast imposed on Wisconsin admin code. Is that
That is a state
number?
code.
Is that a number connected to that? You know, it's like .3 and then .75.
Yeah, I don't remember it off the top of my head.
Okay.
But as an additional note on that, limit is at the nearest residence. You have to, whereas where those limits apply, all of the meters are closer than the nearest residence too.
I was just wondering
Yeah.
what the state number was. That's
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Isn't that in the packet?
I didn't print out that part of the report. I don't know if it has the PDD numbers in there.
Payne Dolan doesn't have it either. So. Maybe it just to include
Yeah, I know that-
as a benchmark.
Okay, yeah, I know that for the movement reading, the PDD is significantly lower than the
I think it's
and
like
the local.
1.65 if I remember.
Are you talking about the vibration?
The vibration limit is much
It's-
higher at the state
That's
level.
.0 or .65.
75.
Yeah.
65, yeah.
But I can't remember if there's a difference between the state and the local for the
PDD.
the air overpressure. The complaints, there were a total of 7 complainants and 8 complaints. All of them were regarding vibration. One, in addition, was for sound, the noise. No complaints regarding dust or other issues during this quarter. All of the complaints corresponded to actual events, however, all of the complaints corresponded to actual events. However, 2 of them were submitted online without a time, but they were on dates when there were actual blasts, so we're assuming that they would have been corresponding with that. In terms of how frequently the complaints were happening, 3 households complained 1 time each. The complaints were happening, 3 households complained 1 time each, and there were 2 households that complained 2 times each. None were requesting confidentiality, but we don't list the addresses or any identifying information on that. All the complaints were south of Drexel Avenue, which is fairly typical, and all the the southern end of the quarry, which is also typical. All the blasts this quarter also that generated complaints were prior to noon. And we had 2 blast events that had 1 complaint, 1 that had 2 complaints, and 1 that had 3 complaints. So the overall number of complaints last year. I think we're starting to see fewer people working from home during the day, but we still have more than we did prior to the initial shutdown in 2020, but not nearly as much as what was going on last year. All the complaints this quarter were south of Drexel. We continue not to have any complaints west. And one thing of note, no blast this quarter had more than 3 complaints. So last year we had several that had significantly more. And then on the map, which is probably the most important thing for you to kind of get the visual. Just a reminder on the map, everything color codes to the blast events. So the blue dot up here corresponds to the blue triangles down here where the complaints were located. As you can see, more complaints were from the furthest south one, and then the other ones with southern blasts. The yellow one, we had the 2 complaints, and the green and the orange had one complaint each. Occasionally, we have a complaint over here east of 51st, but nothing.
Color has the multiples.
The blue one had 3 complaints this quarter, so
Blue
that
one.
was the southernmost one. It's that top. It appears to be the top bench on the southern part of the quarry that tends to get the most complaints. But not every blast in the southern part of the quarry gets complaints either.
I was doing how far down it is, because you said that was top. Are they-
From when we were out there over the summer for the 2 on-site inspections, they've been typically blasting in the shallower bench on the south side. Not all of them, but
Maybe once they get down further, maybe, well, it's hard to say. 'Cause
it's
it
hard to
might-
tell.
It might get worse because it might travel through the ground more, it's, you know.
It's
versus
hard to
that.
tell, but
Yeah,
generally, it appears that, especially going back to last year when we were having a lot more complaints, Clint was able to share data for a couple of those that the shallow bench tended to be the ones that we not had to do a significant blast report this year. So
do you have any ideas or suggestions that can, this seems like most of the, only Barbara's constituents that, you know, can help out? Think of that could be done differently, or,
I really can't think of anything. I think one of the improvements we made with the reports from last year is doing this more frequently and having the strong correlation between the actual blast event and the general area of the complaints. I think between the actual blast event and the general area of the complaints, I think helps us understand exactly what's going on there. It confirmed what we were thinking all along. And then you can see the 2 monitors we have are the ones that are labeled A and D. So we have one at the northern part of the quarry, and then we have one down adjacent in the neighborhood where the complaints tend to come from. The 2 that we don't have co-located are the ones right along 51st.
I know no one from Payne and Dolan is here planning on blasting in that one area.
I have no idea.
They shift around based on demand. So they're not going to concentrate unless the kind of stone in the southern area is not as, I mean, it's more high-grade stone. There's less of demand for that than in the other areas. So it just depends on their demand and what they see as orders
Right.
coming through as to what they want to create. So
And they,
it's market driven,
Yep.
and it's not fixed to anyone. It would be just the,
I believe Clint said in the past that they plan on working in the southern area for quite a while.
For a while.
they are deeper in other parts of the quarry.
Yeah.
The south is where they have it. You can see,
Yes.
you know, this part of the southern quarry has been mined down significantly
Yeah.
lower.
the
And then they have their line of where they have their setback is shown on. They have it marked out there, and their operators know where that is too.
one thing that's to this report, but you mentioned, is the confidentiality issue. There's been some there's been some court findings lately that maybe would have a bearing on that, but only if there's a request for information would we give it.
Right.
So, I mean, but it's not as confidential now as it was. It requires an action, and then we would have to release that data if it ever
Right,
came.
and we still, if it was a confidential one, they would still be counted in the complaint information that we have. We would know if it was a noise or a vibration complaint. We just wouldn't be able to correspond a triangle with that colored dot specific blast. And I'd say on any given quarter, we might have one, or we might not have any, but during the course of a year, we usually have a couple that request confidentiality.
Move to place this report on file.
is there a second?
Do we want to forward this at all to SALT just for their review on file?
It's up to you. You want to make that part of your motion?
Yeah, why don't we do that? Why don't we make that part of the motion? To to place
Okay.
on file.
So
and
is the
forward-
second agreeable to, okay.
Forward it to
We
the
have a
council for review.
First and second to accept, place on file, and forward to the council for review. Forward to the council for review. First Barber, and second Tennecan. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing no opposed, motion carries. Okay, so the next item is review and discussion of the quarry monitoring services scope of work. And I guess
That one open yet. Let you direct. And Mike Rosnowski apologizes for not being here. We worked together on this project, so I'm able to answer it also.
that's fine.
I live in Milwaukee. He lives in Green Bay. It's easier to do it this way. So.
Definitely.
So this is the scope of services we had for this year. It's fairly similar to what we had done the year before. Last year, for the 2020 year was the first year we put in this quarterly report versus having a larger annual report to get the information out more frequently. We also augmented it to include me being here to talk to you about the report versus letting you guys decipher it on your own. And we also added the optional line for a exceptional blast complaint evaluation. Those are as needed when Regulo sends out a notice saying he wants that. And we did not use any of them this year, but we used all three last year.
Right. Yeah.
We did not use any of them this year, but we used all three last year.
Right. Yeah, last year we received complaints. A blast event that had, for example, 13 complaints, but this year that has not happened. So we have not requested that.
I think the highest may have been 6 complaints on Go Blast this year, somewhere around there. It wasn't double digits like the year before. So that line item, we did not use at all this year. We have a monthly fee associated with having the 2 Stantec monitors out there that are co-located with the Payne and Dolan going on out there.
Do you think you need any money toward doing anything with your monitors if they were only picking up a certain percentage, or something you can do for that?
The question, we could look and see if it would make sense to move one of the monitors. I think keeping the one on the south near Allwood in that area, near Allwood in that area makes the most sense.
For sure.
If it would, we could look at the data to see if it would make sense to move that co-located one instead of being far north to move it. There's kind of a north, a middle, and a south
The
one.
furthest
going along.
one north is
Yeah,
one you're...
is where we're co-located. Currently,
Right.
along 51st. To see if it would make sense to move that meter. I could look back over the course of the year and see which meters were consistently getting the detext from the Payne and Dolan ones to make sure we have it in the right location.
Okay. Now, I think I'm pretty happy with how this has been going. Alderman Barber has a question.
The 3,000 that wasn't spent then, is that what you're saying?
It was a line item that we have in our budget that we have not used.
Would that be something you could do to maybe relocate that, if that's necessary, to use it this year?
That I don't know. I will need to ask finance. I'm not sure. So
I mean, it's money in the budget, but
Yeah.
we haven't been using it for that item, so does that just means that we are spending 42,000?
At
In
this
terms-
point, it does, yes.
That's what you would submit, us as
So we could,
42,000?
we could do a short evaluation, and then we'd have to have our contractor come out and move it. I don't know how much of an ordeal that is.
Yeah, I would think 3,000 should more than cover it.
Yeah, I would hope.
I'll do it for the,
I know part of it is especially making sure the power sources are there, and then having the communication, because we are able to get near real-time data off of those meters. So I don't know how that's all set up.
And I also don't know what their future blasting will be up that far either.
They are still blasting some to the north,
Right.
but we can see if it makes sense. Maybe I'll discuss with Mike to see if it makes sense
Okay.
to potentially maybe move it to the central location.
So it'd be in place for next year then?
We can, yeah, you can check on that.
Could you see if there's a finance?
Yeah, I will follow up on that.
Yeah, just
Thank
let us know,
Yep.
because then we can do an evaluation. The other line item we have are for the operations monitoring, where we send a staff member down here. We drive the perimeter of the quarry for the unannounced inspections and do the videos of the trucks exiting the quarry to the east and west, and making sure we're seeing the street sweeper, those sorts of things in place. And then we have occasional announced inspections where we go inside of the quarry to see the operations. We can kind of see where they're actually working. And we verify that they're, the air records for the monitoring for dust control and everything else that they have to have in place with the DNR. For the monitoring for dust control and everything else that they have to have in place with the DNR being kept. So we did that, I think, twice this past year.
You also look at like the crusher down in the pit.
We go down, yep. We do a full drive over with Clint. During the major COVID times, we were doing it in separate vehicles and communicating via phone, on speakerphone as we were driving around. But as the precautions were able to be stepped back a little bit, we were going in a single vehicle and looking at operations. Yes, Mike?
I guess I'm
Barbara.
I'm comfortable with renewing the contract as is for next year. And I think it's a good job that you're creating this, and it lays it out for us so that everybody can read it and understand it. So basically, even the complaints, we haven't had tons of those, but that is valuable data in the future, possibly. So I'm comfortable with the contract as carrying it forward to 2022, but that would be an action by the.
Yeah, I guess I would ask that if the rest of the committee would like to do that, that we would move this forward to the council with Regulu's comment about if you can follow up with the staff, and then put that in the council action sheet about that extra $3,000 that wasn't spent this year and what the committee's intent was, that would be to look at that, possibly moving that monitor. So the council, if needed, if it's just a approval for that, for finance reasons, we can just take care of it all at the same time. Is there any other changes that?
Are there any recommendations from Stantec?
I think if we can move the budget to evaluate to make sure that the meter along 51st Street is in the appropriate location given recent blast history, that could be a worthwhile thing.
Okay. So did you want to make the motion to carry it forward with the write-up about the moving the?
I make a motion to forward the 2022 contract onto council as it is written. What's the wording? As was written up in 2021, to renew that contract with the thought of moving the meter to the south if it would warrant, based on additional information that we could probably discuss and at our November meeting.
Regular would,
Just one question.
Okay.
Which meter?
The one to the north.
One on 51st Street.
maybe we could sum that up.
Possibly.
So we can,
Yeah, to evaluate.
Yeah, an evaluation.
I wanted to try to shorten it up for regular a little bit. So
Pending evaluation.
I wanted to try to shorten it up for regular a little bit. So
Pending evaluation.
you can turn that into a nice solid motion that you want to. Do you want to read back your notes for the record on that?
It's okay.
Okay, you got
I
it.
can go to the recordings. Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay, we have a second for the motion to move that forward to the council. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed. Motion carries. Okay. Moving right along. Next, discussion of the frequency of the regular committee meetings. Now, I put this on here, people coming to the meetings, and the reporting seems to fit with like an every other. But I can see this has been on the agenda, so I want to get the feedback from everyone else. Do you feel like, we need to act more, or
This discussion we had in the past too, it seemed like every other month was appropriate as long as it didn't interfere with the quarterly report.
Because I think the ordinance is at the call of the chair, right? Isn't that what the current schedule is under the Quarry meeting? Because they have been at the call of the chair.
But yeah, there's no like regular schedule
Right.
or no. It doesn't say in the rules.
Yeah. So let's see, we have our schedules coming up. We have Thanksgiving the next month and Christmas the next month, so I don't know which one, would you rather not do next month, or is the Christmas time a little like that to be a little more free, or does it matter? Or I guess it's based on the reports. When do you think your next full?
We'll have we usually get the data sometime by the second week of the following month. Regular's good at getting us the information on the city for the complaints. And then it takes us, the graphics and everything else can take us a little while. Typically, third week of the month. Pushing it, typically get it in that month.
Right.
If the meeting is later in the month.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
for you,
and-
if you had that extra, so if you had December, there would be no problem with, if you had November, no problem hitting it in December and having everything prepared for December.
The next quarter report covers October, November, December, so we won't have data until the beginning of January.
Oh, okay.
So late that month or the following month is what we were anticipating.
Okay. Alderman Barber.
Just, I don't have any problem with every other month, but there are times when maybe something specific, maybe would change that. One of them being the evaluation that might come forward on that meter movement. And then maybe something for the agenda for the next meeting would be membership, if we wanted to hold that off till, we're short one member now, I believe, and then
Right.
maybe
Well, we
a
could,
membership discussion kind of thing.
yeah, we could, you might have an answer on the meter, right, for next
If we
month?
get the answer from Regulo,
Uh-huh.
if we can move the budget,
And,
then, we need a little bit of time
then we would,
run the, check the data to see what makes sense, and then confirm with our vendor that they can move.
and then the next report would be ready in January, so we could so we would do November, December, would be off month, and then January would be the on month. Would that sort of work with your
Yeah, as long as
schedule?
we're getting the data early in
Yeah.
January. And
Sure.
And
we'll
obviously,
try to get it as close to, I know you've got your meeting packet that generally goes out a week before, and that might get, I know you've got your meeting packet that generally goes out a week before, and that might get a little tricky, but I know we can get it out at least early in the week before the meeting, have us as an agenda item. We'll do our best, but we're kind of tight when we get all the data in hand.
and obviously, all the chair, if there's a special thing or a lot of blasting or something that comes up regular, then we'd have to call, a meeting, but, so are we okay with that schedule then?
What is possible November, December, or January?
Right. Okay. On that for the record, that we would be meeting November,
We need-
bi-monthly, and then at the call of the chair for,
It's usually been the last Thursday of the month. Does that conflict with Thanksgiving for anybody? Should we move it to a week earlier or anything?
I don't have it looked.
Was anybody on vacation? Was anybody on vacations or anything?
It'd be Thanksgiving night if we cut our schedule.
Really? Well, we don't want to do that. And we could, maybe the 18th, the week before?
But
Or-
we have a plan commission.
Oh,
The
plan
18th.
commission on the 18th. We want to do the 24th or the 23rd?
Well, 23rd would be That's not council then, is it?
No.
No.
It's 16th is council.
Oh, that's two of them that month, okay.
Yeah.
23rd would work for me,
Okay.
23rd?
and then the next regular scheduled meeting will be in January at the normal last Thursday of the month.
Second that motion?
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed, motion carries. Okay, we're good. Motion carries. Okay, we're good. And obviously, the call of the chair still stays on that. Okay. So, status of the Franklin Aggregates Reclamation Plan, and I know this went to council, there was a public hearing. So-
Yes, so the commission held two public hearings, September 23rd and October 21st, for presentation of the reclamation plan. The plan commission recommended approval with the conditions recommended by staff. So staff recommended a groundwater level study. Recommended a groundwater level study 5 years before the end of the operations, as well as a site engineering study for the slopes stabilization, also 5 years before the end of operations, and to adjust the financial assurance, $670,000.
Okay. And did they also recognize that that's a document that's supposed to be looked at every 5 years? Because that's,
Well, it could be revised. It has
Yeah,
to follow the same process.
okay. Okay. All right, well,
And
don't have any-
I forgot, it will be presented next Tuesday before the common council for the decision.
okay. Do you know, did anyone do a comparison on the DNR standard document back and forth to that? Was that,
We did, staff, so, and that is in the staff report.
okay.
So all, it's
All the categories
set
appear
out.
to be pretty
Yep.
covered and
Mm-hmm.
good. Okay, are there any questions about that? Because we'll be, Alderman Barber and I will be at the council, so if you have any questions you want to get to us before the meeting or at the, we can bring anything up you have. So just give us a call, one at a time. No, don't multiple for quorum issues, but,
And no conference calls.
right. Okay. Well,
Move to adjourn.
we already did the meeting scheduling discussions, so we need a second. All those in favor?
Go Pack.